This is LauretteLynn, and you are listening to EX314 Podcast, exploring biblical principles to discover and extrapolate value, to discuss, learn, grow, and create a meaningful life. Welcome to the conversation. What are your goals? Are they arbitrary? Do you have them? Are they written down? Do you even know what they are? And that's a realistic question, right? Because it's such a common theme. Goals, 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 hashtag goals. We all need to know what our goals are. But some of us, we really don't. We don't know what they are. We have trouble clarifying them. We have trouble zeroing in on exactly what it is we want to achieve and we want to accomplish. And sometimes they're disjointed. They're kind of all over the place. We have different goals for different areas of our life. Sometimes we have so many that we become overwhelmed by them, and then we get paralyzed and we don't actually do any of them. Or sometimes we can clarify and write them down, but we don't actually have any action steps to get to our goals. And it just kind of becomes this thing that's on the back burner because we have our goals in one separate category, and then we have our reality and what we're actually needing to do in our life, because we need to pay the bills and we can't change things up and we can't transition. So we tend to take what we really want in our life and what's really important and kind of put it on the back burner. And then we'll have sometimes these goals that we feel like we're going after, but objections come in the way and blocks come in the way and obstacles come in the way, and we struggle. We have a problem like breaking through each wall as it comes up, and we're always having to navigate this labyrinth. So while it's a really great concept and it's something that I think all of us revisit over and over again, a lot of times we don't really meet them. And I think there are several different reasons that we're unable to meet our goals. Sometimes it's lack of action, lack of plan. Sometimes it's just lack of clarity and focus. Sometimes we're not really focused on the actual goal. We don't dig in and try to figure out, what is it we really want? Is this it, what we wrote down and what we're envisioning? Is this what we want, or is that another means to an end? So to have this conversation, I invited Melissa to come back and have this conversation with me, because Melissa is all about clarification of goals and is currently working on a project in her business to help people get clear on their goals and achieve those. So I'm going to hand it right over to you, Melissa, and just take it from there and tell us about goals and why they're important and how we can achieve them.
Awesome. Thank you, Laurette. I appreciate that. Well, I do believe that the old adage, right? Failing to plan is planning to fail. So I understand that we're all busy in life. We all have obligations and responsibilities and things to do. But if we're not taking the time to set up an action plan, and we're not taking the time to self-reflect and asking ourselves what we truly want out of life, then we're just going to float along. You know, life is going to happen, and pretty soon we're going to look back and we're going to realize that we haven't accomplished nearly as much as we had wanted to. Fortunately, there are strategies that we can use to not only figure out what we want, but then actually implement ways to achieve those goals by focusing on them. And I actually have some steps that I can share with you, and then you can jump in and add as you want. But first of all, what we need to do is we actually need to take the time to think. So I feel like if we have time to sit down and watch a show, that we also have time to invest in ourselves. And we can just go in the bedroom and sit down with a notebook and seriously ask ourselves, what do we want? And in doing that, we need to put aside any fears, any self-doubt. We really need to engage our imagination. You know, what would my ideal life look like? And once we answer that question, we allow ourselves to truly take a moment to just dream. We can jot some of those things down. But we have to ask ourselves first, what is it that I really want? What would feel really good? What experience can I have in my life that would just feel amazing? So once we do that, once we take that time, and I do believe we should take that time on a regular basis. I constantly reevaluate my goals because I want to make sure that they're still valid for me, that I'm still enjoying that feeling of that coming to me and experiencing that. And then we need to write down those goals. So generally research says that 7 to 10 goals is like the sweet spot. That doesn't feel too overwhelming, but it's a good amount of goals to actually set for ourselves. Because if we think about it, we do have many areas of our life. You know, we have finances, career, relationships, health, spirituality, personal development, all of these different areas that we really do need to address. You know, we don't want to get overwhelmed, but at the same time, we want to have enough so that we do feel like, hey, in 10 years from now, I can imagine all of this happening. You know, so
I'm going to pause 1 second because I want to dig into that a little bit and just share with you some of my personal experience with running myself in circles. And I think that a lot of us experience this. So I think it's probably significant enough to address. And if it's just me, then I'm crazy.
Absolutely. No. Okay, go ahead.
I like what you said about taking time to reflect and really dig in. And I think that may be the first and most important missing ingredient is normally when we're thinking about what we want in our lives and what we want to achieve, we're not focused on that entirely. We're thinking about it while we're doing something else. We're thinking about it while we're focused on whatever other task we're doing, whether it be work or housework or family obligations or driving around doing errands or whatever it might be. We're locked into that activity and we're just kind of daydreaming in the back of our mind about, well, you know, I wish I wasn't in this situation, or I wish I didn't want to be doing, I wish I wasn't doing this, I'd rather be doing that. And we feel somehow that qualifies as thinking about our goals. But there's a couple of reasons that I learned that it doesn't qualify. First of all, we're not fully engaged in the activity of thinking about our goal and thinking about what we want and trying to clarify it. And B, we're almost 80% focused on what we don't want to be doing. And that's counterproductive.
Bingo.
So
yes.
That's
Exactly.
not focusing on what you want. That's focusing on what you don't want. Now, when you think about what you actually want in your life and what you want your life to look like, that's important. That's extremely important. So to me, that's worth setting aside 30 minutes or 60 minutes in a day to clear out your schedule, clear out everything else. Don't do anything else during that 60 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever the case may be. But sit down with your notebook and really, really think about what is it you want. And for me, Melissa, I also found it important to not only think about what I want, but to dig into why I want it. So I could say, okay, I want X amount of money. Like by this time, 6 months from now, I want to have $50,000 in the bank. And that's just a round number, right? But depending upon who you are, maybe that number is 5,000, maybe that number is 40,000, whatever it might be. This is the amount of money that you want. The first thing that happens is I'll write down the number and immediately the back of my mind is saying, don't be crazy. That's not going to happen. So it's a struggle to shut that voice off and say, I need to just focus on what I want. I don't need to focus on whether or not it's pragmatic, whether or not it's practical. I need to just focus on that. But more so, do I even just want the money? I mean, if somebody handed me $50,000 right now in cash, yeah, that would be great. But I'm not just going to, sit on it and take a bath in it, roll around in it. I mean, that's funny, but it's not realistic. I want it because I want to use it for other things. I either want to pay down debt or I want to buy, that $500 comforter
or you
that I
travel,
start having. I want to travel. I want to be able to take off time from work or whatever it is. That's the goal. The goal
Right.
isn't the money. The goal is the thing that the money can get you. So I just wanted to throw that out there and see what your thoughts were on kind of digging in and also making yourself a priority to take that time.
Absolutely. It's always the experience when people write on their vision board, a certain amount or, like you said, I want $50,000 in the bank. It's not the money per se, because money is just a means of exchange. That's all it is. But we want what money can offer us, which is opportunity. So that's the same thing in breaking down the goals that we have. For example, I wrote on this morning as I'm writing down my vision of my projects, I said to reach 100 YouTube videos to help others. Well, do I really, is the goal really the 100 videos, or is it the fact that I'm helping others through that means? And it is the latter. So I realized that my real goal is to help others, but the means is developing and producing the videos so that I can help others. So there's many, many different ways to do it. I mean, that's my particular vision. That's one of the ways that I help others. But as I'm looking at this vision board in front of me, I'm realizing that everything it says, talking about my adult meditation CDs and my kids relaxation CDs and my programs and courses on my site, all of that is really to be of service to others. And it's just my particular way that I personally enjoy helping others, using my gifts that I have to help others in that way. But ultimately, it's about helping others. So the money, ultimately, that's to satisfy a particular desire. And it might be security. It might be thinking about retirement when perhaps I can't work anymore, wanting that money in the bank to be able to travel whenever I want to travel and things of that nature.
I think that's so important to really dig in like that. And I love that you brought that up. The videos, making 100 videos isn't really the goal. That's the means.
Right. Mm-hmm.
By which you're going to achieve your goal, and your goal is to help others. And what I love so much about that is it's not tied to a particular dollar amount. And I want to unpack that a second, because that's been something it's a revelation for me that's come about recently. And for many years, I was very focused on the dollar amount, and even what I was going to do with the money, and thinking, okay, I got this. I got the why. The why is because I want to travel. I want to be able to have security. I want to pay down debt. I want to be able to have money for my kids, but it didn't speak to my desires, my
Right.
deep down desires of what is going to reflect my purpose in this world. It's nice to be able to have money for my kids. It's nice to be debt free. It's nice to be able to travel, but those don't speak to what I feel my purpose in this world is. When I was ready to really dig into that and understand that the gifts that I've been given, the gifts that God has bestowed upon me, that I've spent time in this earthly life developing and turning into skills, those are tied into my purpose. My purpose in this world is to use my gifts, which is the gift of communication, to serve other people. That's it. Yeah. So if I envision my goal right now, and I haven't actually drawn this out, and I really should. I don't know why I haven't, so slap my wrist, But I envision almost creating a circle in the middle of the page with my main purpose, and my purpose is to serve others. My purpose is not the gold. My purpose is God. Like not chasing the gold, but chasing God and making sure that that's my compass. And then from that circle, almost building like a network that looks sort of like a web of all of the different ways that I can be of service to others.
Yes.
And then being of service, going out to the second layer of the web, how in all these different ways that I can be of service to other people. Exactly how am I going to do that? And those come into more like tangible, realistic goals, so I can be of service to others by doing this podcast, right? And I do the podcast. So what's my goal for the podcast? To record one podcast per week. Okay. I could be of service to others by volunteering at my church. Okay. What does that look like? Volunteering in the teen group.
Right.
Right. And what's my goal for that? To do that, 30, I haven't done the exact calculations, but 30 out of 52 weeks a year. That's the goal, to make sure that I'm doing that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about all of those things, I think the first thing somebody might be thinking when they're listening is, okay, that's awesome, but I still need to pay the bills. Here's the thing that I'm learning though, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm focused on the gold, I never get the gold. I run around in circles.
Yeah.
When I keep my focus on my purpose in this life, which is service, the blessings come. So then it's about faith. But I still feel like there's a missing link there, and I have a feeling you can provide that. So
yeah. I just wanted to backtrack for a second because I was kind of giggling as you were talking about this web, because as I'm looking down at my poster board that I have here laid out in front of me, that's exactly what it looks like. It is a web with a big circle in the center and branches out, and it's so funny.
So I need to do that then. I need to get that pen on paper.
Definitely, because it's visual and our minds think in images. So I'm a very visual person myself, a very visual learner. And even though it's words that I have right now, I don't have any particular pictures, but it's still a visual image that I have of this web on my poster board in front of me. So that is fantastic because I've left enough space. This is very important to me because I think that a lot of people get overwhelmed. They say, well, I have this goal that, let's say, I want to write this book. Okay, that's my goal. Well, that can be your goal for years and years and years, but until you put it in front of your face and break it down, you can't take actionable steps each and every day to move closer to your goal. So we've known each other for many, many, many years, and I would always laugh because people would ask me, how in the world are you able to do everything you do? So 5-6 years ago, I was still homeschooling my children. I had 2 businesses, which had been up and running for 5 or 6 years at that time, maybe a little bit longer. I was in the middle of writing 3 books at the same time. And I'm still, focusing on being a great educator to my children and doing all of these other things. And to me, I felt amazing. I was having such a good time. And people would ask me, how in the world are you able to run a business plus have your hand in another business plus homeschool your children and write books? And where in the world do you find time to do this? And my thing was, I break down my goals and I do something every single day. So when you have the goal, for example, of writing a book, take out a sheet of paper. You have your book at the top. The first week you you break it down into your chapter titles. This is what my chapter title is going to be. I'm going to have 10 chapters, let's say. Once you have that, now you have your outline. Now you've already actually done a lot of the work. So it's really the organization that is missing for a lot of people, because they can say they have this particular goal, but if they're not organized and if they don't break it down, that goal is just going to remain a possibility in their mind. You have to break it down and take steps each and every day. And I don't care what that step is, even if you have to go online for an hour and research about something, then do that. You're still one step closer than you were yesterday. Time passes no matter what. We can't escape that. So we might as well use it to our advantage and make each day worthwhile.
And that really comes down to making it a priority. So making ourselves a priority and making that goal a priority. And when we think about I think this especially happens with parents, and maybe even more so with moms. And, I'm sure dads experience it too. But when we have other responsibilities in our life that are in the form of people, like we have responsibilities and commitments to other people, we tend to have a nagging voice in the back of our mind that feels like when we're taking time to focus on ourselves and our own goals, we're somehow neglecting the people in our lives around us. But I think it's very important for us to come to terms with that and to understand that we have a purpose to fulfill in this life, and it's okay. Not only is it okay, but it's absolutely necessary to spend time focusing on that, because eventually what's happening is you are doing everybody else in your life a service when you are focusing on achieving those goals that you have set out for yourself. And when you are not, you are actually doing the future relationships that you have with other people a very big disservice. Not only by setting a poor example, but by not shining to your full capacity. Because if you're not shining to your full capacity, you're not being the light in other people's lives that you were meant to be. So it's absolutely important to set that time for yourself. And it really just goes back to creating those positive habits. And this is something that has been proven over and over again. Just as simple as if you want to get into an exercise routine, you can't think about it. You can't intend to do it. You have to do it. You have to wake up in the morning and you have to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it almost becomes a struggle every morning and I think the average is about 90 days. It takes about 90 days for something to become habit forming. After that, it becomes such a natural part of your day that you just do it. And you don't think about it, and it's not a struggle. And it starts to become where if you don't do it, it throws your day off because you've thrown your routine off. So you have to create that new routine. And I always liken it to getting a new job. When you get a new job, it alters your routine. You're moving from one routine to another. Things are different. Maybe you have to wake up at a slightly different time because you have to be there at a slightly different time, or you have to take a slightly different path to work, so you have to allow more drive time, and then your desk is different. The environment that you're working in is different, and the people that you're working with is different. So there's an adjustment period, and most businesses that I know allow 3 to 6 months for that adjustment period to really solidify. But when you do that, you commit yourself to that. No matter how hard it is, you commit yourself to that because you know that there are other people depending on you. So you give yourself that time, no matter how much of a struggle it is at first, to adjust to that new commitment. It's the same thing when we make time every day to focus on our goals. We need to make it that important. And if we're not doing it, then the person we're not committing to is ourselves. And how could we expect to be any use to everybody else in our life when we're not being useful to ourselves? And that's why I think I want to unpack that just a little bit, Melissa, because I think that's the thing that has stunted me so many times in my life, is I would say, well, yeah, I do have this goal of writing this book, which I actually do, and I do have this goal of creating this program, but, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K all has to come first because those people are my priority. And, it was really not selfish to focus on achieving your goals, because that's what you're meant to do in this earth.
Right, exactly. And like you said before, you're setting an example. And that's very, very important, especially to, our children and our loved ones. And they see us, they look at us, they see what we're accomplishing, that we can carve out that half an hour or an hour a day and actually focus on ourselves and achieving our dreams and becoming a better person each and every day, of stepping more fully into who God created us to be. And I honestly, my morning routine, you already know it, but every single morning I wake up, it's the gratitude, it's good morning, God, it's the prayer, my devotionals, and looking at what my day is going to be like and planning for an amazing day. And right then and there, with that connection with God, that sets my mood straight, that gets me off on the right foot, and I feel amazing, and I feel like my heart fills up with love, and I'm ready to see what God has planned for me this day. And I do believe that, maybe, well, I'll have to ask your opinion on this, but certainly for me, there's days when I look at my projects that I have to do, and because I am an entrepreneur, I am blessed to be able to decide what I want to work on that particular day. But there are times when I'm very, very attracted to working on a certain thing, and then this other thing, I'm like, oh, not today. I'm not in the mood.
Oh, yeah, and that happens to me. And I have the creative mind and the pragmatic mind that are currently at war within myself, and I'll think, well, I don't feel inspired to do this today, so therefore I shouldn't do it. And then the pragmatic mind is saying, you have to. You said you were going to. You have to. So I think it's just a matter of kind of thinking it through for a minute and saying, okay, am I not wanting to do this because like say, for example, writing a book? Am I not wanting to do this right now because I don't know what to write? I don't feel inspired. Is it because I have a headache and I don't want to look at my computer screen? Like, what is the reason that I'm uninspired to do this right now? Or is there something else that I thought of this morning that God put on my heart this morning that says, this is something that I really want you to work on today? And for example, I'm working on, I have a book, Melissa, and I've told you about this book literally, I think probably like 4 or 5 years ago. It's the same book. I don't have a chapter written. And I'm just going to be very vulnerable and admit that right now because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that, I haven't put it together when altogether it's probably only going to be about 300 pages. I mean, we're not talking about like the great American novel here, but, I've decided to make time in my day to pursue that, as well as make time in my day to pursue some downloadable courses for my coaching endeavors. And I did just the other day, I have my outline written, which is good, and I'm proud of myself for that. And I have the first chapter started. It's actually not going to be the first chapter of the book, but it's a chapter that I've started. So I wanted to work on that. And then I thought, I'm really feeling drawn to putting together an outline for the course that I want to create because it's so front and foremost in my mind right now because I felt like I was receiving a lot of inspiration in that moment. So I went with that. And I think that's okay because it's still focusing on a goal. It's still something that's on that map or that web that it's another thing that I need to draw. But in my mind, it's still focused on that. When you distract yourself though, because you'd rather, watch a half an hour episode of something. I think that's different. A little bit different. Yeah.
Well, to that point, so what I said is very true. And I love the freedom of being an entrepreneur and being able to follow God's inspiration as I'm led. However, this is why it's so important that we become disciplined and we assign a deadline to our projects and our goals. Because once we do that, for example, so you have your book and you get sidetracked because I'm going to say sidetracked in quotations because you feel God's inspiring you to really go hard on creating this downloadable course that you're creating right now. And it's just flowing, you've prayed, you've got in the zone, you're feeling the vibes and you're just so inspired and it's just flowing out of your fingertips and it's all good and it's wonderful. So that's fantastic. But at the same time, this book still has its deadline. And if that deadline is, let me say, 1 chapter a week, then that still needs to get done. And that's when we have to discipline ourselves, sometimes like little children, and say, this still has to be done. Now, maybe I'm not really feeling it because I'm more inspired to do that, but it's my chapter still due by Friday. So Laurette or Melissa, you're going to have to get inspired at some point this week because this is going to be done. I'm going to stay on track. So I think that that's really, really important because a lot of times there are things in life that we can't avoid. I have my sales tax due before the 20th of the month. I can't evade that responsibility. It has to be done, even though I'm never inspired to sit down and go on the government website and report this and that and the other, like it's not inspiring. Nevertheless, it has to be done. And I have that deadline there, actually, that the government gives. I don't even give it, but it has to be done. So just like anything in life, God is there for us. God inspires us. And yes, we should follow that, and let ourselves just let that love and that inspiration flow through us. But at the same time, keep our commitments to ourselves and be disciplined.
Do you find that it helps to have accountability? And I'm asking because that's what I have loved so much about having my own coach in my life, which I do, and being able to have the opportunity to coach other people is I can provide that source of accountability, and my coach provides that source of accountability for me. And of course, there are certain friends that I rely on too, like you're one of them, to help move me along the way. But what's good, for example, with my clients is we'll reverse engineer a goal, like you're saying, and I'll help them actually break it down to the minutia. So just using the example of writing a book, and this can really be applicable to any kind of goal that you have. But okay, I have this book that I want to write, and it's in my mind. I know basically the gist of what I want to say, and my goal is to have it done by the end of May of next spring, right?
Yeah.
So knowing my abilities and what I'm capable of doing, I could knock out, probably close to 1,000 words within 45 minutes. I'm capable of doing that. So knowing that, I could break that down and say, okay, if I can knock out 1,000 words in 45 minutes, then I need to set aside 45 minutes at least twice a week so that I could write 2,000 words a week. And that's basically a good, healthy, maybe mini chapter or start to a chapter, or maybe even a chapter if it's a short chapter. So I know that I can do that. I can break that down. And then I have to look at my calendar and see everything else that's going on in my life and the different appointments I have and say, when can I take 45 minutes to do this? And if you really break your day down by the hour or even sometimes by the half an hour, you find that you do have that 45 minutes twice a week to make that happen. And if I eliminate something else from my life that's not important, right, like screwing around in front of the TV or, screwing around on Facebook, whatever it is, I can eliminate those things because they're not conducive to the end game. They're not conducive to the goal, right? Exactly. And then I'll communicate with my coach on a regular basis, and my coach knows about the minutia that I've broken down. And he can be able to say to me, so did you write this week? Did you take that 45 minutes twice a week? And if I say no, is there going to be a punishment? No, he's not going to punish me. He's not going to do anything to me. I don't receive some ugly mail or, anything like that. But it's just knowing in the back of my mind that there's someone that I have to tell, and I have to say, no, I didn't do it, because now we have to have a conversation about why I didn't do it, and I don't want to have that conversation, and I provide the same thing to my clients. I don't punish them. I don't, there's no bolt of lightning that comes from the sky or anything. I don't tell them, well, you can't have your ice cream this week or anything. It's not like that. It's about, okay, let's talk about that. Why were you unable to make it happen? And normally, Melissa, there's a bunch of excuses that are masked as reasons. Well, it's because this and this and this. Okay. Well, yes, that's true. That's something that hit you out of the blue this week, and you had to take care of that. Could you have moved it to another time that day? Well, no, because Monday was blah, 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 blah. Okay, what about Tuesday or Wednesday? And then all of a sudden there's this pause. Well, yeah, I guess I could have done it. Yeah, I guess I could have. But it helps us clarify. So it's just that I wanted to get your thoughts on having that accountability. And do you have anybody in your life that offers you that accountability? And if not, how do you provide that for yourself?
Well, first of all, I definitely think that having a coach is one of the most amazing things to propel you forward and make sure that you are staying on track for the goals that you have identified. It's really funny because I became an entrepreneur at the age of 24. So at that time, I haven't had an outside job since then, and I'm 44 now. So it's been quite a while that I've had businesses and been working for myself. And actually, when I was 24, I went through a coaching program to become a coach. And life coaching at that time, it was very, very new, definitely not mainstream as it is today. But it was something that I was so attracted to just because I've always had an inner love for helping other people. And I thought, this is fantastic. I mean, helping people reach their goals, what could be more amazing than that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That feeling, because when a client shares a win, you feel that you've won in some way too, and you celebrate with them, and you're happy and you're excited with them. So I was actually living in Europe at the time, and that was my very first business. I did cross-cultural coaching. So that was initially my business, to help people with the cross-culture. But it really turned into more of a life coaching business in the end. And I had, a lot of it was telephone work, but I did do some in-person work as well. But it was amazing, and it was so fun. And even though I was so young, and now I think back like, geez, what did I even know? Like, what do you know at 24? But I've always been a very, very deep person, very, very reflective, and especially goal-oriented. So goals were nothing new to me. And of course, once you go through a really good coaching program, you know a lot of things that other people, maybe they don't take the time to learn or whatever. But I definitely think that coaches are amazing. And I don't currently work with a coach, but I have worked with several coaches over the years. And I will say, right now, even though you're, one of my best friends, you do a lot of coaching, even in our private conversations, even though it doesn't necessarily appear as coaching, but we've kind of touched on this before. There is that accountability between us, and it's just kind of natural. I think just because we've been friends for so long, and we are both goal-oriented, and we're reflective people, pretty self-aware, we've shared things, and we encourage each other, and we kind of have that accountability, with each other, that I would say normally I would probably be getting that in a coaching relationship if I actually, had a coach.
Well, I think it's important to just let anybody know that's listening, even if you don't have someone in your life like a coach or a teacher or some figure in your life that is going to provide that accountability and that source for you, rely on a friend, rely on a spouse, rely on a parent. The main idea here is to rely on someone in your life that can be that trusted, valuable source for you to help move you into a more positive direction in your life to achieve your goals. And if you need help figuring out what your goals are, if you need help figuring out exactly what the capacity of your potential is and the unlimited nature of who you are, that's when those trusted friends come in even more handy. So that's the official advice that I'm going to give you today. And remember to get right with God, because above and beyond anything else, the first thing that you need to do if you're looking to improve your life and shine to your brightest capacity and your brightest potential, and really dig down and know what that potential really looks like, is to nurture that relationship that exists already. Tap into it. Tap into that relationship with God. Pray, meditate, get yourself centered, and get yourself right. That's going to help you more than anything else, because it'll help set your mind and your spirit and your body all into alignment so that you can move forward into the purpose that is meant for you as you walk through this life. I hope that you found value in this conversation. My name is LauretteLynn, and I very much enjoyed having this conversation with Melissa. And if you'd like to learn more about me, of course, just visit LauretteLynn.com, or you can find me on social media. To learn more about Melissa, visit Melissa Dormoy, or Melissa Dormoy, if you pronounce it in French, .com. That's MELLISADORMOY.com, or shambalakids.com. LauretteLynn.com. And of course, if you are visiting my website and you find this podcast, her link and information will be available there. Thank you so much. Laurette out.